So welcome back. This is the second part of the Calrec build. So all boards are populated with all the discretes and sockets for the ICs. So everything's done there. Now we're going to talk about parts a bit. So every build has some amount of parts, just one part or something that's going to be like horrible to find and really difficult. On this build, you have a couple of them. It's going to be these here little switches, dual switches, and you have these four pole switches. This can be a bit of a bitch to find because pinouts are pretty large on the boards. There are easy to find the Alps switches out there that have a lot less spacing, half spacing, so the switches are much smaller than these ones. Those are fairly common, but these are a bit hard to find. So that's going to be a challenge. I get these from China. That's why I've been waiting for them. I think like a month or something. And there are some drawbacks here. I can only find these two different models. And if you look carefully as I push them in, you will notice that the white switch, the 2-pole one, goes down much further before it locks. So that's going to be a slight annoyance to have on a panel, that one switch is going to engage much earlier and one switch is going to engage much later. So if I built this for another person, I probably would not accept it. I probably would just try to find. I probably would find this shorter acting switch because it's felt a bit more tactile to me, and find 4-pole ones of that kind. But since this is for me, this is going to be in my studio. I really don't see me having a lot of problem with that. So, but those parts are going to be bitch. So these are from China, and ordering from China can always be like a bit scary because you wait forever and you never know what parts you're going to get. Usually it's pretty cheap, and I paid something like 10 euros for these switches, the 6 I'm going to need for this build, and I paid for these ones, I paid 8 euros. And from China there's always like this element of surprise. So 8 euros, these are the amounts of switches I got for 8 euros. I did not order like, I don't know, 120 of them or something. So but that's what I got for 8 euros. So somebody probably counted wrong, but well, it's the way it is. Okay, so next part that's going to be a bit hairy is a dual 100K reversed log pot. That's a negative log pot. And optimally, if you find the exact correct part, it's going to look like this with only 2 poles. I could only find this in the correct. So this is made for wires, and this is made for the PCB. So this would be optimal to have because these are going to fit on the PCB like this, and they are also going to connect to the front plate like that. So most builds I've seen on the Calrec, they only use these pots as the mounting. I have been thinking a while about it, and since I only have these kinds of pots, I won't rely on the pots as the only mounting option for the PCBs. They don't weigh that much, but I don't know. I wouldn't just feel comfortable just putting them on there and hoping that they would stay in place. So this is the front plate. I got this from Pushman, the same place I got the PCBs. This front plate looks pretty great. It's I have no issues with it other than the thickness it's going to be leads here. The thickness of the plate is too thick for the plastic insert, so either I'm going to have to drill this out for a proper lead lens or something, or I'm gonna have to find some solution to that. So, but no biggie. It's really nice quality for a. I didn't pay much for it at all, so highly recommend that front plate. So really nice and clear markings on the silk screen. So the boards are going to mount like this, upside down on the unit here, and you will see here the different switches that's gonna go in the holes. So these holes are for the push buttons, and this is going to be a sort of a fiddly thing that's probably going to take me forever to figure out and to get a proper mount, because these, I really need 3 arms for this, but these little switches going to be on like this. And I'm going to keep the board and just flip over the little plate here so you can see how it's going to be. So these little, let's see, since I flipped it over, it's going to be over here. These little push switches are going to come out like this, and it's super important that the board is mounted firmly in a way that the buttons don't scratch the edges of this one. That's going to be or it's crooked or something like that. That's not acceptable. So I'm going to be very careful with mounting these, and I've given it some thoughts on how this is going to happen, and I've tried to like mock up these switches and see how they handle. And when I look at them like this, I notice that they line up perfectly on the board. So and the pots are going to go in like this. So probably is that its pot is going to be a bit too far down, a bit too high up, or something, to make sure to allow for the switches to be in the extreme in the hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount all the switches. Then I'm going to put in these and solder them on while mounted to the plate, so I can have a really nice alignment on the push buttons when I do that. So this is going to be the part that has to move around. I hate to have to move around all these pins here, since I have 6 on the small ones and 12 on the large ones. So I'm going to trust that these ones line up nicely, and I'm going to be very careful when soldering them. So pushing them down with a fair amount of pressure, and make sure they are in line like this. And I also have tested them with on the holes like this, so everything's gonna, let's see, there we are. So while editing this, I noticed I make no fucking sense in explaining how I'm gonna mount this, or how this is all gonna line up properly. So I just thought I'd give you a quick view of the mock-up I have done. So pots are screwed in, and since the switches are already here aligned properly on the board, everything's gonna have to line up here as well. And I also have been thinking that before I do any soldering of the pots are currently the boards are just resting on the pots at the moment. Before I do any soldering of the pots, I need to have the buttons here as well, and have them properly seated on the buttons. So when I have the caps, I'm gonna do the final soldering of the pots. So about these the dual 100K negative log pots, I haven't really decided what way to go. It's either I mount them on I just mount them to the casing like this, and I have the solder lugs like this, or rather like this, and the board's going to be well like this, and I just solder it down with wires to the lug position over there. That is one option that I'm thinking of. The other option is that I straighten them like I have done with this one, and I cut off the eyelets, and I have to cut off the eyelets here, and I put some wiring down here, just one solid wire, and I sort of will build this setup on the little lugs there. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to test that out with another dual gang pot, so I don't burn these, because I only have as many as I need of those. Other than that, no difficult parts. OP amps, no big deal. You can use several different types. And my case is on order, so that should arrive next week. So hopefully next time you see this, it's gonna be running at some capacity. I don't know how far I get, but at least it's gonna be mounted to the backside of this. So there we are. Also, I would like to tell you about how the power handling is going to be. This board, little front plate here, only has like a little power. I don't know if it's an indicator, or it's supposed to be an indicator, or just a switch. I'm going to use it for an indicator. I found this really nice green neon lights that run out of the 230 AC. So this is going to be on the switch, connector switch on the back of the unit. So that's going to be in the main switch. So front won't have any main switch. One thing I've always found bothersome when I build pedals, that's going to haunt me again. It's when I have to use this, or when I use these kinds of lights, the LEDs, dual light LEDs. So this is going to fit on here, and it's going to indicate if the unit is bypassed or not. These are red and green in one LED. So I'm always like, okay, so red, is that going to be when it's engaged, or is green going to be when it's engaged? Because like red is more of like an alert color. So if it's red, that should tell you that it's bypassed, or should that be an alert that it's active? What's the correct way to view it? So I usually put on red is engaged and green is bypassed. And as I say it sounds really stupid, because then I think, hey, green should be when it's engaged. But when I say that, I think that is stupid as well. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how should I mount these. I have done pedals, and then I always have red is engaged. Everyone says it's super confusing, but I'm sure if I had it the other way, they would say that was confusing as well. So you can't win. Dual light LEDs, it's like life in general, so you can't win.